Between 1941 and 1945, 6 million Jewish people were systematically murdered by Nazi Germany. Millions more, Roma, disabled individuals, political opponents, LGBTQ people, and prisoners of war were also killed. This genocide is called the Holocaust. Over the next 5 minutes, the narrator moves through what happened, how it happened, and why it still matters, tracing a path from everyday prejudice to industrialized murder. When Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party rose to power in 1933, they did so by offering simple answers to complex problems. They wrapped economic anxiety and national humiliation after World War I in a package of racial pseudoscience and scapegoating. Jews were blamed for Germany's troubles. Laws and propaganda reshaped ordinary life. Jewish people were stripped of rights, barred from professions, and removed from government positions. The Nuremberg Laws of 1935 made this official, stripping Jewish people of citizenship and codifying racial exclusion. In November 1938, Kristallnacht erupted, a night when synagogues were burned, homes and shops smashed, and Jewish men arrested en masse. The smell of smoke, shards of glass, and the sound of broken windows signaled a new level of danger. Persecution was severe and terrifying, but it had not yet become the systematic machinery of mass murder. That escalation came with war. War changed everything. In 1939, when Germany invaded Poland, it brought millions of Jewish people under Nazi control. Entire neighborhoods were sealed off into ghettos, cramped, filthy quarters where hunger and disease were constant. Families who had lived in one town for generations found themselves compressed into a few crowded blocks. As the Wehrmacht pushed east into the Soviet Union in 1941, the brutality intensified. Mobile killing squads called Einsatzgruppen followed the army into occupied territory. These units rounded up men, women, and children, forced them to dig pits, and shot them in groups. The scene was horrific. People gathered at the edge of a mass grave, the air filled with shouting and the echo of gunfire. Entire communities vanished in a matter of hours. These shootings showed the world how quickly hatred can become lethal when it meets bureaucracy and indifference. Still, Nazi leaders sought a more efficient method. In 1942, senior Nazi officials coordinated what they called the final solution, the plan to annihilate the Jewish population of Europe. They built extermination camps, mostly in occupied Poland, places designed around killing on a massive scale. Auschwitz-Birkenau became the largest and most notorious. Treblinka, Sobibor, and Belzec were built for the single purpose of murder. Trains carried victims in overcrowded cattle cars, the air thick with fear and desperation. Arrivals were often met with selections, some sent immediately to gas chambers, others parceled out for forced labor. Camps combined industrial logistics with cruelty, barracks packed with people, barely any food, rampant disease, and constant forced labor. The gas chambers and crematoria mechanized death. Mass graves and smokestacks became grim symbols of a process that had been planned and executed with chilling efficiency. By war's end, about 6 million Jewish people were dead, roughly 2/3 of Europe's Jewish population, alongside millions of other victims targeted for who they were or what they believed. In 1944 and 1945, Allied armies pushed into Nazi-occupied Europe and liberated the camps. What soldiers found shocked the world: emaciated survivors, barely able to stand, piles of clothing and shoes, mass graves, and the smell of death lingering in rooms meant for horror. Survivors' faces told the cost. Hollowed eyes, haunted silence, the slow rebuilding of life amid loss. After the war, the Nuremberg trials attempted to answer what had happened and to hold leaders accountable for crimes against humanity. Testimony, documents, and photographs created an enormous record. The scale and documentation of the Holocaust made it one of the most recorded genocides in history. But documentation doesn't erase the pain, nor can it fully capture the human stories lost. The Holocaust did not happen overnight. En day by Tarnot, it developed step by step. Propaganda dehumanized people. Laws removed rights. Small violent acts escalated. And systems of transport and industry converted hate into murder. That pattern matters because it shows how ordinary bureaucracy and passive compliance can enable atrocity. Remembering these events is not just about honoring victims, it's about recognizing warning signs today when speech becomes hate, when a government targets a group, when institutions look the other way. History asks of us a simple, urgent responsibility: learn, notice, speak, and act. If you listen to the stories, if you hold words and memory close, the hope is that such violence never gains the foothold it once did.